What'd you just hear? Welcome to the start of our Listening to Harmony course, ear training, hearing chords and chord progressions. Now, for the time being, I'm going to start with the primary chords in a few different keys, and you can probably guess what keys those are going to be. Here's what we want to listen to first. Here's again what I just did. Really important when you hear a progression to listen to the whole thing first. Hear it from top to bottom. How many chords were there? How many measures were there? How long did it stay on each chord? Here's that same thing again. Got it? Here it is again. Okay, should we do more of those? Sure. What do you think? Enough? No. Let's do one more. Okay. What did you hear that all of those progressions had in common? First of all, each one was just a set of 4 chords. 4 units. None of them had 4 different chords in them. They all had 3 chords. Probably heard that. Started and ended on the same chord. Not only that, it was the same progression numerically or algebraically or chord number-wise in each key. They were in different keys. Now, the 5 keys that I just played in are what we're going to concentrate on for a little while here, is just hearing chord progressions in those keys, common keys to play in on the guitar. They are this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Hopefully you could hear what 5 chords I just played there. We'll talk about it a little bit later. And we're starting with just the primary chords, not minor or diminished in a key. So what you may have heard there when I played in the beginning was a sequence that went from tonic chord to something else, and back to the tonic. Now those other 2 chords, as you may have guessed by now, are chords 4 and 5 in the key, starting with chord 1. So this progression just went from 1 to 4 to 5 with one other little twist. Let's hear it again in this key. And what you should have heard there, or hopefully heard, is that one of those chords was not just a major chord. Or we want to be on the lookout for chord 5 played as a dominant 7th chord, because that also is it gives a unique sound and helps you identify what key we're in. So in the next segment I'm going to play through a couple of different patterns that I want you to hear. Well, no, I'm going to do that right now, because what you just heard was 1, 4, 5 played as a 7th chord, and then back to 1 in the 5 keys that have open major chords playable on the guitar. Okay, that's our starting point. Sometimes a really good thing to do then for every one of those keys is, aside from hearing this, is to hear them in this order. A sequence of 5 units or spots. In another key. In another key. In another key. last key. So, every chord I've just played, with the exception of one, was an open chord. One of the keys, one of the common keys that we play in, of course, is C, and that includes an F chord. Everything else has 1, 4, and 5 played as a 7th chord, as chords we can play in an open position, not having to use a bar. Okay, so that's kind of our starting point, and in the next segment I'll start playing through some progressions in a couple of different keys. And what I want you to try to do first is the first time through, listen to the whole thing. Don't get caught up in what the second chord is and not hear what happened after that. Okay? For the time being, they'll all start on chord 1. And listen to the overall form and try to get an idea of how many measures long was it, when did it come back to chord 1, how long did it stay on each chord, was it equal changes? Like everything we've heard so far in this segment was just the same amount of time on each chord, and it wasn't until the end I even started adding any kind of rhythm to it. But coming up next, we'll start running through a couple of more elaborate chord progressions, more like what you would hear in a real song. Now, certain songs are good to keep in mind as what was going on in that chord progression. That sequence right there is something that you should recognize when you hear it in another key, maybe with a different rhythm. Or so, did you get an idea of what all's happening there? Okay, that's where we're starting, and coming up next, some more real type progressions. That was the first segment in what's going to turn out to be a very long series of ear training, learning to hear chord progressions, although we also started with melodies in phase 1 of this. Phase 2 is starting to hear chord progressions in the 5 common keys played on the guitar, and just using chords 1, 4, and 5 to start with. So if you'd like to check this out, the first parts to it are up now at TotallyGuitars. But again, this is going to be an ongoing series that will take a while for us to finish, but I'll keep you updated as to what's happening here. But our ear training series has now stepped into harmony, hearing chord progressions, and hearing phrasing and structures that are put together like that. So, just an example of the type of stuff we have at TotallyGuitars. We also have hundreds and hundreds of lessons on songs and theory and various techniques and stuff like that. But if you'd like to work on your ear training and see what's happening with our current series over there, come visit us at TotallyGuitars.